Hey all. So I ordered a Torque Tank M4 last spring. Used it all last summer. It's been great. So I wanted to share a little bit. The box package, whatever you want to call it on a pallet, is heavy. And as you can see, my good friends Ruby and Isabel are giving me a hand. They sniff everything I bring in the house or put in the barn. So there they are. Anyway, get straight to it. You open it up, and what am I most impressed with? The hardware. Socket-headed cap screws, pre-applied thread locker, lock washers, included wrenches, makes installation a breeze. Quality hardware makes all the difference in the world. So you open up the box, and the frame, so to speak, with the axles and the resistance mechanisms are already installed. So it just becomes a matter of wheels and tires to go on next, which are included as well. So I laid them out. I did notice right away, having been in construction for a few decades, that the tires were a wheelbarrow tire, which isn't a problem because they can handle it. They can take quite a bit of abuse. But right away I was thinking, I wonder if there's a way to use a bigger wheel and tire here. But anyway, kind of a pin drive system where you can see where the axle goes through, which is a great idea. The coating that's on there is great for corrosion resistance and to keep the thing looking sharp. So I bolted them in place, and that's kind of what you end up with: the frame, wheels and tires, and ready to go from there. Super heavy duty, very robust. Really had a smile on my face putting this thing together. The materials are first rate. The design lends itself well to strength, kind of a low center of gravity. But at this point, it's ready for the handles to go on. They look to be mandrel bent pieces. Again, they're coated. They fit absolutely perfectly. And the included hardware, those socket-headed cap screws, made everything a breeze. I kind of cheated. I used a cordless when I could, instead of using the included wrench the whole time. Made things go together pretty quick. So that's what you end up with. As you can see, it's ready to go. The handles are ergonomic, ready to be used. It fits a variety of shapes and sizes, regardless of how tall you are. It just really works well. It's very organized in its appearance, and you know right where you have to go to set the level of resistance, which is kind of what I'm focusing on right now. It's kind of ingenious. 1, 2, 3. That's pretty easy. I like the knurled handle. Some may complain that they want a little more resistance. The MX does offer that over the M4, but I've been completely happy with the amount of resistance that I can get out of it. Pushed it up and down my driveway, which is actually a bit longer than what you see. That's only part of it, but it did very well. So again, I immediately started looking at tire sizes and the wheel design, trying to figure out how I can find something bigger. And lo and behold, the MX, which is a slightly different color, offers a bigger size. So I ordered a set kind of through their service department at Torque. Had 4 of them shipped to my house. The offset was perfect. They bolt right on. The only difference really is they're slightly taller. They're obviously wider. And there's a color difference in the wheel. So you can see the difference in color between the MX and the M4 in the shot. So I thought about, well, maybe I'll paint them. It won't be a perfect match, but I'm going to paint them a darker color. I'll disassemble them. And what I'm showing now is just the difference in size, and I think you can pretty much see it. The larger wheel or tire should impart a bit more friction, which is fine. If you're looking for the most resistance as possible, you can load more weight with the higher rated tire. So for me, it was all win, and I figured I'd just put the original tires away. But they get the job done. I used it with the original wheels and tires. It worked just fine. It didn't make much of a difference because you can't really steer it one way or the other. You can learn how to maneuver it a little bit as you're pushing it, pulling it, but for the most part, it just goes forward and backward. So I put the original wheels and tires on there and disassembled the ones that I bought from Torque and painted them. Again, it wasn't a perfect match in terms of color, but just a darker color I thought was a fairly close match. Something that I learned in disassembling them is that when Torque or whatever contractor is putting them together, they're actually cutting through the tube that's inside. So what I'm showing is when you take a bolt out, you see little pieces of rubber, and that's from the tube. So as you'll be able to see in the subsequent photo here, that rubber comes out and those tubes can leak. None of these wheel and tire assemblies leaked when I got them. They held there. But I wouldn't be surprised if some people had leak issues. So as I disassembled them, you can see the rubber that's coming out. It's because when the tube is inflated, it expands and goes between the two halves and then gets pinched. And the socketed cap screw kind of cuts into it when you install it. So you can see where every bolt was, the tube gets cut and it goes all the way through. So I ordered new tubes for my brand new wheel and tire assemblies and was very careful to not allow them to get pinched like the original ones were. I wet them down, a little bit of lubrication made it a little bit easier to keep the tube away. It's kind of tricky because you have the tire over the tube, you need to get at it. And in this shot you can see the two halves. I haven't put the second half into place yet. Once you do, there's some spacers that go on before you put the hub assembly on, which is to the right, and then you put bolts through it. But anyway, I got them all together, got it up in the air a little bit, and ready to get the new wheel and tire assemblies put on it with the color change. So there you see it all done. I think it's a closer match. It's not that kind of dark gray, a little bit kind of a flatter or matte black, which is fine by me, and ready to go. Used it all summer long. That's my wife, who absolutely worked her tail off. And the audience is, again, Ruby and Isabel, encouraging her to keep working, whether it was pushing it or pulling it. She did a fantastic job. And it didn't matter how hot it was or what time of day. If I wanted to use it, use the rope, whatever, she would jump in with me. We had a lot of fun. Excellent workout. Great for your legs. I can't say enough good things about it. The rope, again, whether it's your back, your lats, your triceps, whatever, however you're going to work it, couldn't be happier. And I found myself working well into the evening as the sun was going down and really enjoying it. And I would stretch my workouts out. Didn't matter. I just kept working the muscle as much as I could. So I could just say that last summer, as you can see, that there it is complete. I was very happy with the performance of the Torque Tank M4. I really dig the aesthetics with the wheels and tires. For me, I like to mod my gear. So I knew right away I wanted something a little fatter. And there was no compromises with it. I didn't give anything up. There's no pinch points. There was no obstructions. It just bolted right on. So to me, it was all win. And the fact that my wife enjoyed using it, she worked very hard. Again, more win. The only thing that kind of stuck out in my mind was when you're using it, and there she is pulling it, it can slightly go in one direction or another. And again, you can learn to control that, but it sure would have been nice to steer it. So what you see there is an assembly that Torque contacted me via email, and a number of people that have purchased them, with this wheel assembly that allows you to raise the one end of it up anyway, to make it easier to maneuver it when you're, let's say, parking it. Not as you're using it up and down the driveway or the street or what have you, but makes it easier to maneuver it, to put it away. So I bolted it in place, and I'll be honest, immediately I thought the lever arm that you see there with your urge handle, the ratio, it's a little bit tight. It's a little bit hard to operate. Sure, it'd be nice to extend that. So I thought, I'm going to try to figure out a way to do it. I thought, well, if I get rid of this orange handle. I could put a steel tube on, and I could weld a plate on, and that became the focus. Was I am going to do that. So I bought some bar stock. That orange tube is roughly 1 inch in diameter, outside diameter. I bought some solid bar stock that was about 1 inch in diameter and cut a piece to length. And while it would have been nice to have a lathe to drill it, I actually did it on a press, which is kind of a pain, but I got it done. And you see the 45/64 drill bit that I used worked perfectly. And again, this was going to serve as the foundation so that I could extend, in essence, the arm and make it easier to operate. So what I ended up was a steel tube that was identical to the plastic tube, other than material properties. Obviously, it's steel. So there it is, slipped right on there. And no negatives there. The fitment was perfect. Now I just needed some plate. So I found some plate, tacked it in place, and tigged it in between. So while it's not my best TIG weld, I got the job done. I figured now I can slide it off, put it on the bench, and I'll TIG the other side. So it's a lot easier to TIG weld when it's on the table or it's on the bench. Some might call it cheating, but it's easier. But anyway, there's the assembly that gets slipped on. And then the plan was I'm going to drill a hole and bolt it to the arm and then take it from there. So there it is sitting there, and I end up in the lower left corner of that plate, laying out for a hole to go through there to be able to bolt it to that arm. So here's the underside, and you can see the hole in the arm after I've drilled through both the plate and the arm itself. So with that said, I also fabricated an arm to actually use, a lever, if you will. And what you see was actually repurposed from a Sears and Roebuck a riding lawnmower snowblower attachment that I had saved. I welded some angles to it, drilled 4 holes, and drilled and tapped that plate. So this was just to verify that it would work, that it would make things easier, and it did. I can't say enough good things about it. I wanted it to be out of the way, which it is. I wanted it to make it easier to pick up that end of the M4, which it did. And I wanted it to look fairly good. So this was just verifying fitment, and then I would disassemble, sand, and paint everything. So there it is, welded up. Again, it's all tigged, and I just used a kind of a flat-ish textured black paint. I primed it. It was already mandrel bent, and it already had the handle on there that you see. And I just turned the heat up, and I undercut when I welded, but I wanted to make sure that I got good fusion, which I think I did. And I didn't see it necessary to try to, it's a little tricky there to weld the underside of the angle. So there's the original assembly, and there's me sliding the tube and plate into place after it had been painted. And now it's ready for the bolt that I used to go through there and fasten that assembly to the arm, which I've done. You can kind of see the bolt head where it says "don't." And there's the arm in place. I tried to use hardware that was similar to the original hardware on the M4. So there it is when it was up, and now there it is when it's down. And I think the handle's out of the way. Again, kind of matching hardware, the socket-headed cap screws. I used stainless, which is easy to find. And there's looking down. Again, I tried to orient everything so that it wouldn't be in the way of the rope. So there it is up. So you wouldn't have it that way when you're using it. So you're not going to be in the way of a rope or anything else. You can't put a plate on there, but you couldn't put a plate on there on that end anyway with the handle. So it didn't matter. And here it is, kind of done. I'm very happy with the way that it actuates. It's a pleasure to put it away now instead of having to go and pick up one end or the other end in order to steer it and park it into a little space. So I guess what I'm trying to show is how easy it is to go up and down. And it was a little tricky before. Anybody could do it before, but it was hard. And I didn't think it needed to be that hard. So for me, this has worked well. The only thing in my mind doing this was I would have liked a beefier pivot. The pivot was designed for the very short arm. And for the way I've got it now, it works fine. It's pretty strong, but it would have been nice to have a stronger pivot, and I'd be done with it. And I think I will be for quite some time. But it's just something that I would improve if I could. But anyway, that's it. That's the M4. I look forward to using this for another summer. Take care.